Greetings and salutations, Second Star Right, back with more Raid Shadow Legends, and hot off the heels of the patch 1.13 drop and all the new champions we got from the Battle Pass, we have more champions today. These are, I guess, ostensibly the Valentine's Day champions. There are two couples that can work together in tandem that have complementary skills, and then just a whole bunch just for the heck of it, I guess, which is cool. I like new champions. And some of them, I did a brief scan through to make sure I wasn't missing any when I was preparing for the video. And some of them have some potential, right? So here's the list of them all, but that's just a tease. I'm going to go through each one right now. Hopefully faster than I usually do, because I can talk for half an hour with no problem about champions, which can be good or bad depending on your take on that situation. I remember I had some video, someone commented, "Get to the point!" I'm like, nah, I can't. I tend to wax lyrical a little bit in my descriptions, but, I am who I am. Okay, so Banner Lords, what do we have here? We have, where's the new dude? We went over him yesterday. Here we go. We have a rare called the Myrmidon. It's a reskinned Chevalier. And he is a defense-based champion. He's rare. His Bone Splitter A1 attacks the enemy. The 20% chance of placing a provoke debuff for one turn if the target has higher max hit point than the champion. Okay, that's tough to work with because you can't tell, what the defense is of your opponent. So it's kind of hard to know who to attack first. You can kind of guess, but you could be wrong. So that makes it a bit tough. His A2, a disarming sweep on a 4-turn cooldown that you can get down to 3 turns. Attacks all enemies with a 60% chance of placing a 25% decreased attack debuff for 2 turns. So it's an A2 with the low version of decreased attack. You can get the chance, though, up to 60, 65, 70, 80%. And of course the cooldown down to 3 turns. But again, it's the low version, so I don't know about that, even on a rare. In their midst is an A3. Places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns. Places a 15% continuous heal buff on this champion for 2 turns. Okay, that's interesting. At a rare with ally protection. He is an okay hit point pool. It's not great, but it's decent. He can get that 6-turn cooldown under 4-turn cooldown. So you can have a 4-turn ally protection on a rare. If you are playing a uncommon or rares only account, which I want to do at some point, that sounds like a lot of fun. This would be a good champion to have because I can't think of any other ally protects that are rare. There probably is one, but I can't think of them right now. And he has a defense aura in dungeons by 20%. Okay, so Myrmidon, he's fine. I think the skills they're a little bit muddled for what he does, but all the skills individually are okay, but I don't know how great they work together. Okay, is anything new in High Elves? Let's see here. Anyone I don't recognize. Okay, here we go. Another rare, the Fencer. Reskinned Hyria, it looks like. I always loved the High Elves. They look so aloof. Like, they do not care. They just degaff. Okay, Enchanted Rapier is her A1, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a 15% decreased speed debuff for 2 turns. That's based on attack. And you can get the 15% chance up to 20, 25, 30, 30% chance to decrease speed on the A1. Not bad for a rare. This is an interesting skill for a rare. Pommel Strike is the A2, 4-turn cooldown. Attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. Steals 20% of the target's turn meter if the stun debuff is not placed. Okay, so you'd probably rather have the stun, but 20% turn meter, especially if she's in a team with other turn manipulating champions, that might be interesting. You can actually get that 75% chance up to 80, 85, 100% chance to stun, which I guess makes the second part of it completely unnecessary. Okay, well, moving on. A3, 4-turn cooldown, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance of placing a 30% decreased defense buff for 2 turns. Okay, so it's the low version, 75% chance. You can get that down to 80, 100% chance on a 3-turn cooldown. But it's the low version of decreased defense. So there's the theme there. The Myrmidon, the rare, had the low version on an A2. This one has a low version of a decreased defense on the A3. I don't know. I'm not too impressed. Increases ally attack in dungeons by 23%. Nah, this kind of seems like food to me. We'll have to see how it works in practice. Okay, moving on to Barbarians. Anything new here? Yes. Oh, the Sky Touch Shaman. What an awesome character design. Holy crap. I love the feathered shroud in the headdress. Oh, that's so cool. Oh, that's a really sweet looking champion. Oh, yeah, and the black fog coming off the weaponry. Super sweet. Alright, let's see what she does. She's epic. Epic support champion. Talon Knives A1 attacks all enemies. Heals by 15% of the damage inflicted if this champion has less than 50% hit points. Boost the champion's turn meter by 20% instead if this champion has 50% hit points or higher. Okay, so heals if you have low hit points. Burst the turn meter if you have over half your hit points. Okay, and you can book that damage 5 times, so that's pretty impressive. We'll have to see how it is in practice, though. Her attack's 958, which isn't bad for a support. Okay, Immortal Skies level 1. Removes all debuffs from all allies, then places a Revive on Death buff and a Block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns. Oh, that's pretty cool. Especially if you're surviving an arena nuke, but she'd have to survive herself, I guess. And then she could bring everybody back and keep them from getting more debuffs. That's not too bad. Let's see what the passive does. She has a passive. Bloodstain Ritual. Damages this champion by 10% of their max hit points at the start of each turn. Heals all allies except this champion equal to half of the lost hit points. Okay, so 5% of her max hit points, I guess. Places a 30% decreased speed debuff on this champion for 1 turn at the start of each turn. Okay. Also has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on this champion for 1 turn. Alright, well her A1 and A2 better be amazing, because that's a lot of negatives for a 5% max hit point heal every turn. I mean, why not just, put on a continuous heal? I mean, that seems like it would... I guess if they're imagining you can really get her hit points up super high, and then that 5% is a really big heal every turn. Again, I think this is going to vary by person. Your mileage will vary on the efficacy of this champion's skills. But regardless, super cool looking champion. That's for sure. I love the Barbarian designs. They're just really probably my favorite in the game. Okay. Oh, there's also a rare. The Soulbound Bowyer. That's a lot of gold dust flaked on her. Okay. It's a cool design. It's cool design. Not my favorite among the Barbarians. I like the bird on the shoulder. That's kind of cool. Okay, let's see what she does. Ancestral Guidance. Attacks all enemies. Has additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Okay, so she's going to be one of these critical hit people. A2. Attacks 1 enemy. Has additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. And will ignore 75% of the target's defense. That's big. In Arena lately, if I don't have... I tend to not favor champions that don't have either ignore, shield, or block damage and ignore defense, because these just seem to do so much more damage in Arena when everyone's shielding and running high defense teams. Having these skills are very helpful. Okay, and let's see here. And actually, if you had if you 6-star this rare, if you were so inclined, and you got Helm Smasher, that could be 100% defense ignored. So that's kind of cool. Soulbound Shot is the A3 on a 5-turn cooldown that you can book down to 4 turns. Attacks 1 enemy, has additional 25% chance of inflicting a critical hit. Also has a 75% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter. Okay, now there's a bunch of buff to buff chance increases, but I don't know if that is both, because they have an additional 25% chance of inflicting a crit, but it also has a 75% chance of fully depleting the target's turn meter. So I don't know if these buff to buff chances go to both of those or just one of them, or I don't know. But regardless, as a rare, I think that would be interesting to book this champion and just to see what she did. And it has an ally crit rate in all battles aura. That's rare. There isn't a whole lot of crit rate all battles champions out there. So interesting rare there in the Barbarians. Alright, moving on. Oops, that's not where I wanted to go. Go on to organs. There's nothing in organs that's new, I don't think. Nope. Okay. Sorry, organ tribes. You're out. There's no new lizard men. There's new skinwalkers, however. Oh, and this is one of the Valentine's Day champions. The first one we've come across in this video. Coronar. So badass looking. Holy cows. It has a kind of like a Wendigo kind of feel to it. Super cool. I like the little rose accoutrements. The filigree on the bracers, super cool. I really like the way this champion looks, and the dark coloration is very striking. I like it, and a lot of skills too. Let's see what this legendary does. Flourish of Slaughter attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of decreasing each target's turn meter by 10%. That's good. Attacks all enemies 2 times instead of 1, and the chance of decreasing each target's turn meter increases to 100% if Minaya is on the same team. The damage of each hit will be decreased by 50%. Okay, and it's based on hit points. We have hit point based champion, and that tends to not necessarily go over very well. It seems like shamans have damage based hit points. Don't actually hit very hard, but the skills that go along with the hit are pretty good on this A1. Okay, A2 is Beastly Bellow, 4-turn cooldown that you can get to 3 turns with only 3 books. With only 3 books, that's not too bad. Has a 75% chance of placing a provoke on all enemies for 1 turn. Places a block debuffs buff and a 60% increased defense buff on this champion for 2 turns. That's cool. Removes all debuffs from this champion before placing the block debuffs and increased defense buffs if Minaya is on the team. Okay, so yeah, he really likes that Minaya. I'll say, really increases his capabilities. And now let's go on to the A3, which is Battle Waltz. Attacks all enemies. Places a 50% decreased attack debuff on all enemies for 2 turns. Places a 60% decreased defense debuff on them on targets under decreased attack debuffs. That's worded oddly. Places a 60% decreased defense debuff on targets under decreased attack debuffs. I'm going to go with that. I think there's just an extra word in there. Damage based on hit points. 5-turn cooldown that you can get down to 4 turns with 4 bucks. Okay. Decreased attack and decreased defense. Decreases defense if you land the decreased attack. Okay. But you can't increase the odds of doing that though. But that's okay. Now he has 2 passives. Ferocious Guard counterattacks when hit by enemies under decreased attack, decreased defense, or decreased speed debuff. So it could be any of those 3, and he'll counterattack. But he always counterattacks when hit if Minaya is on the same team. So kind of another counterattack champion, a little bit with some caveats. And another passive, Spectacle, places a 60% increased defense buff on all allies for 2 turns if the champion kills an enemy. Alright, so Coronar is pretty beastly. I guess for his Beauty and the Beast archetype, that makes sense. Alright, so Coronar is a winner in my book. I like that one a lot. There's the 2 bears from yesterday. Oh, and this is a new rare. Flesh-monger. Oh god. Oh, he was super hideous. Oh, okay. The hands are probably probably unnecessary addition, but it's kind of cool. He's hideous, absolutely hideous. But let's see what he does. He's a rare. Thorough Butchery is a 3-hit attack on his A1 that you can book damage up 5 times. Fresh Meat is his A2, places a 25% increased attack and a 15% increased crit rate buff on this champion for 2 turns, and grants an extra turn. Okay, so increased attack, increased crit rate, and then attack. Nothing wrong with that. That's I like the way, because sometimes they'll do that. They'll give a buff to everybody and they won't attack. This one just buffs this champion, but then he gets to attack afterwards, or just do an extra turn after it, depending on what the AI wants to do. Tornado Cleaver level 1, 4-turn cooldown, A3, attacks all enemies, has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense buff for 2 turns. And damage based on attack. Okay, you can get this 50% chance up to 55, 65, 75% chance. So it's an AoE. Oh, okay, so AoE high level, decreased defense debuff on his A3 on a 4-turn cooldown. So it's not too bad. Increase ally attack in dungeons by 23%. A usable rare. Not great. Probably mostly food, but the A3 is useful. It'd be more useful if it was 3 turns, but 4-turn cooldown, decreased defense, has increased crit rate, increased attack with an extra turn. Yeah, not bad. It depends on your team composition, but this one's probably not going to get a whole lot of use. Alright, moving on to Orcs. Anyone new here? Yes, we have new epics, the Sandlashed Survivor. Kind of looks like that Bowyer from the Barbarian tribe, the same coloration. Maybe they serve the same purpose in the ranks. Okay, so what we have here is an A1 called Smell Weakness. Attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 30% chance of placing a provoke debuff on the target for 1 turn if the champion has no debuffs. Heals by 15% of the damage inflicted if this champion is under any debuff. Okay, so either provokes or heals. Okay, that's interesting. I have an affinity for attacks that do things rather than just deal damage, so that's not too bad. You can get the 30% chance of placing a provoke up to 35, 40, 50% chance. Endless Sands. 4-turn cooldown, you can book it down to 3 turns. AoE decreases the duration of all enemy buffs by 1 turn. Increases the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn. Okay, so if you don't have a cleanser, you can at least reduce the buff duration by a turn. And increases your buffs by 1 turn. So that's kind of cool too. No A3, down to a passive. Born Survivor, 5-turn cooldown, then get down to 4 turns. Places a 50% ally protection buff on all allies for 2 turns when any ally's hit points drops below 50%. Also places a block damage buff on this champion for 1 turn. How's that working? Provoke, there's a heal. Okay, this is gonna have. Again, the skills just seemed a little bit off. So enemy buffs. Not a really tuned epic, I don't think. But again, I think in practice we'd have to test out and just see how it actually functions, how the AI is set up when you want to auto fight. And I think that one just requires a bit more experimentation. It's hard to picture her place otherwise. Okay, anything new in Demon Spawn? I do not believe so. Although I'm sure there are some people think about Valentine's Day and definitely think about Demon Spawn. Okay, Undead Hordes. Okay, here we go. We have the two new legendaries. Rotos the Lost Groom, legendary attack champion. Terror Scourge is his A1. Attacks 1 enemy. Has a 75% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 2 turns. Also has a 30% chance of granting an extra turn. Okay, so again, hit, put in the high level decreased defense with a 75% chance that you can't change. And damage is based on attack and hit points. Okay, we've seen that before. Angar had that in what's the phrase? He hit like a wet noodle? A wet noodle. So hopefully, his attack is at 1520, so that's actually not bad. That's not a bad attack stat at all. So we shall see what kind of damage he can mete out with his A1. His A2, a Vitality Plunder, 3-turn cooldown. They can actually get down to 2 turns. Interesting, I wonder what it does. Attacks 1 enemy, decreases the target's max hit points by 20%, then adds that hit point to the champion's own max hit points. Well, that's good, he needs it, because look, his hit point pool is less than 12,000, which is ridiculously low. But I guess it has the ability to oh, I better talk fast. The ability to increase that max hit points. Cannot decrease a single champion's max hit points by more than 60% in one battle. Cannot increase this champion's max hit points by more than 60,000. Does not decrease boss's max hit points. This champion's... Oh, I feel like I'm a prescription drug commercial, you know, when they say, you know, they spend 2 seconds talking about what the medicine does and then 28 seconds about, you know, all the fine print regarding the medication and all the contraindications. This champion's max hit points will be increased by 15,000 when the skill is used against bosses. Okay, fair enough. That's kind of cool on a 2-turn cooldown. That can be super interesting, for sure. Attacks 1 enemy will ignore 75% of the target's defense. Will also ignore unkillable and block damage buffs. Nice. Grants an extra turn if this attack kills an enemy. Also nice. Enemies killed by the skill cannot be revolved. Nice again. Damage based on attack and hit points, and we will see how hard that hits. Someone report back to me as soon as they get this champion, because that is pretty sweet. Spurn Oblivion, the passive, will decrease the damage from a single enemy hit so that incoming damage will not exceed 50% of this champion's max hit points from that hit. Okay, so no single hit kills, I guess. Can occur once per enemy attack. Grants, unless that guy attacks more than once, I guess. Grants an extra turn if this damage reduction occurs. Okay, again, we'll have to see how that plays out in practice. Does not work against bosses, naturally. Decreases the damage taken from bosses by 15%. Decreases the damage taken from bosses by 30% if Sippi the Last Bride is on the team. Okay, that's the first time they've mentioned his skills being influenced by his counterpart champion. So that's where she comes in. All right, so let's go look at her and see what she does. Sippi the Lost Bride, Corpse Bride. Okay, so Corpse Bride here. She has support. Curse of Longing is her A1. Attacks an enemy, has an 80% chance of placing a sleep debuff for 1 turn if the target's turn meter is equal to or above 50%. This debuff cannot be resisted. Okay, so an unresistible sleep, if you nail it, heals allies by 5% of their max hit points if the target's turn meter is below 50%. Okay, so it sleeps or it heals. And an all ally heal on an A1, 5% of their max hit points. That's not bad. That's a cool A1. I think most of the time you're going to be sleeping, but the heals are going to be really neat to see. A2, Whirlwind Romance. I'm sure many of us out here are no stranger to that, right? Fills the turn meters of all allies by 15% and places a block debuffs buff, a 60% increased defense buff, and a 30% increased speed buff on all allies for 2 turns. Alright, so we have a little bit of Mausoleum Mage type effect in there, but this is even better with the turn meters and the increased speed, increased offense, block debuffs. I know, thank you. Very, very cool. Alright, that's an awesome, and it's 5 turns, we can get it down to 3 turns. That's sweet. That's really effective 3-turn cooldown. Revives a single ally. Oh, this is Love Beyond Death, the A3. 6-turn cooldown, they get down to 4 turns. Revives a single ally with 55% hit points and a full turn meter. Places a 50% increased attack buff and a 30% increased crit rate buff on that ally for 2 turns. That's a cool A3 too. This seems like someone would actually really benefit from books. That doesn't require a whole lot. Look, the whole well, I guess the A1 you lose a lot in the A1, but the A2 and the A3 are only 2 books each, and the reduced cooldowns. That's a very effective use of books. If RNG's on your side and you use 4 books and you book those down, that's pretty sweet. Not that that's gonna happen, but if it did, that'd be sweet. Eternal Bond is a passive that she has. Heals each ally by 15% of their max hit points at the start of their turn. Has a 40% chance of removing freeze and fear debuffs from each ally at the start of their turn. Removes all debuffs from Rotos the Lost Groom at the start of their turn if they're on the same team. Okay, so there's the counterpart. They actually don't seem to do a whole lot. It seems like the Minaya and Coronar had a lot more interaction with skills, if memory serves. This one doesn't have a whole lot, but still, that's cool. That's a nice little passive too. And ally resist by 80. Interesting. That's not bad for Arena. Okay, let's see here. Anyone else? Yeah, this is one of the Night Sisters or whatever from yesterday. Oh, here we go. Corpulent Cadaver. Oh, Jiminy Christmas. Oh, gross. He's all full of boils and he's fat. Oh, okay, dude. I like it though. I like it. It has that expressionless mask. It really adds something to it. I think that's kind of cool. I like it's kind of like trapped in there. Oh, that's bad. That's neat. Crushing Mass. Yes. Attacks 1 enemy. Inflicts additional damage if this champion is under a shield buff. The damage is equal to 30% of the value of the shield. Okay, that could be super interesting because we know how large shields can get in this game. Put them on there with Miscreated Monster, Valkyrie. That could be a very, very cool A1. His hit point based champion, and his damage is also based on hit points. His hit point pool is just kind of middling. It's good, but it's not great for hit point based champ. So he's going to need that shield buff. Disgusting Display is his A2. On a 4-turn cooldown that will stay 4 turns, places a shield buff on the champion equal to 20% of their max hit points for 3 turns. Okay, and grants an extra turn. So that's cool. So he shields up and he can do something else. That's good. I like it when they do that. I don't like it when they just buff and don't attack. It seems like a waste. Okay, his A3 is Baleful Tenacity. Attacks one enemy, has an 80% chance of placing a provoke for 2 turns. A 2-turn provoke on a rare on an A3. On a 4-turn cooldown that you can get down to 3 turns. That's not bad. That's not bad. This is actually a really decent rare. There's a lot of flexibility, a lot of potential in this champion. Someone who pulls a Corpulent Cadaver and can really exploit a shield team. Let me know how that goes, unless I beat you to it. But let me know how it goes, because that seems really cool. And plus, you can increase the 80% to 100% chance. That's sweet. This is a really, really solid rare. Hideously ugly, but serves a purpose nonetheless. Okay. Moving on. Dark Elves has something new in here, right? Here we go. An epic called the Fang Cleric. Support champion, his A1, Conduit Fangs. Attacks an enemy, has a 75% chance of transferring 1 random debuff from this champion to the targets. Kind of like Abyss does. Which is, it's okay. That's an okay skill. You can book it a lot. That's 6 books in an A1. Shadowy Blessings heals an ally by 20% of this champion's max hit points, like Painkeeper. Also fills the target's turn meter by 30% if they are fully healed by this skill. Places a Veil buff on the target for 1 turn if they are not fully healed by the skill. Okay, that's good. That's good. So if you heal fully, you get a bonus. If you don't heal fully, you get some protection for the ally. That's not bad. The use is limited, but it's not bad. Return to the ranks. 6-turn cooldown that you can get down to 4 turns. Revives a dead ally. So it's a revive with 30% hit points. Fills the turn meter by 30%. Also places unkillable on the target for 1 turn and a 15% continuous heal. So a very solid revive on a 4-turn cooldown. With his other skills, though, I don't know if he'd ever replace a Gorgorab. Because he has a speed aura also in all battles by 15%, which is kind of cool. But I'm not sure that he's going to get a lot of use because it seems like there are champions that kind of do a similar role to what he does and maybe do it a little bit better. Alright, so anyone else? Any rares? Anything? Nope. Okay, so that's it for that faction. Knights Revenant. There's the new legendary from yesterday. Oh, here we go. New epic defense champion, the Sepulchre Sentinel. Oh, that alliteration almost got me. She's awesome. She has the Crypt Witch outfit, but look at this badass shield. That is so cool. Speaking of badasses, the hair looks really nice. The Maleficent headdress. The shield is really cool. I like that a whole bunch. Yeah, the hair's a bit much. She has a little bit of Rapunzel thing going on there, but otherwise, really nice character design. Okay, so Sword of Withering attacks 1 enemy, has a 40% chance of placing a 50% decrease attack debuff for 2 turns, and damage is based on defense, of course. You can get that 40% chance up to 45, 50, 60% chance. Okay, A2, Sepulchral Shield, level 1, 5-turn cooldown, get down to 4 turns. Places a 60% increased defense buff and a block buff on all allies for 2 turns. That's a nice A2. Oh, that's all she got. She got the A1, which decreases attack, and the A2, which increases defense for everybody, and block debuffs on all allies for 2 turns. That's a pretty sweet and useful A2, but the 4-turn cooldown is 5 turns natively, and you have to book it to get down, so that's a little bit underhanded. But she has a passive that does Untouched by Death, has a 25% chance of completely blocking incoming damage on when this champion or their allies are attacked. I think it's 25% chance of completely blocking incoming damage on this champion when this champion or their allies are attacked. I think that's what they're trying to say. It occurs once per turn. The debuff chance, 25%, 25, 30, 35, 40, 50% chance. So that's not bad. 50% chance to block all incoming damage is pretty neat. The wording is odd, so we'll have to see in practice what that actually means. Okay, but she's really cool looking. That's definitely a nice looking champion. And we also have a rare, the Coffin Smasher. Let's see, Knight's Revenant. He has this weird, like, tentacled growth coming out of his back. Oh my gosh. Okay. All right. I don't know how I feel about the mask. It has a Legacy of Cain kind of look to it, but that's cool. That's cool. Yeah, I love the mallets. The mallets are really cool. The hammers. Mallet Crescendo is A1. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a 50% decreased attack debuff after 2 turns based on hit points. Okay, so we have a hit points based champ with a fair hit point pool for a rare, with a decreased attack A1 that hits 3 times, and each hit has a 15% chance of placing the large version decreased attack. 15, 20, 25, 30. So you can have a 30% chance 3 times of placing a decreased attack. That is huge. For a rare, that is amazing. Tombfire is A2, 4-turn cooldown. It just stays 4 turns. Attacks one enemy, has a 50% chance of placing an HP burn debuff for 2 turns. Okay, this is Clan Boss all the way. Let's see what the passive does real quick before we comment more. Gloom Mist decreases the damage enemies inflict with AoE attacks by 5%. That's okay. I don't know if that's just that champion or if that's everyone in the party. It doesn't really say, but I'm going to assume it's just him. So, well, if you're putting him in Clan Boss, he's probably not going to be in Stalwart unless you have a really good healer. But you can definitely see the synergy there. But the decreased attack on A1 and HP burn for a rare is awesome. Now his attack stat, his defense, they're just kind of meh. His speed is meh. But again, his skill set is for a rare. So now add in the what's your name? What's that one from yesterday? Oh, she's not in this one. The poisoners for the Game of Thrones looking people, the corpse collector or whatever it was. All right, now I need to go find it so I can show you what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. So Frozen Banshee is a rare poisoner and a really effective one. So now we have a really effective rare HP burn. Free-to-play Clan Boss people are going to be set with this release. This is really, really something. I'm super pleased and impressed with what they've done here. All right, so let's make sure I don't miss anything. All right, we're good. All right, now I guess that's just what we have left for dwarves. Okay, and there are 2 new rare dwarves. We have the Cudgeler. Like, it's a cudgel, but it kind of has a bow staff look. Come on, Napoleon Dynamite, you're good with a bow staff. Kind of an uninspiring design. The top knot's a bit silly looking. I don't know about this. I don't know how this guy looks. It's all right. I do like his weapon though. His weapon's pretty sweet. The spiked cudgel is cool. Okay, the Harder They Falls is A1. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Has an additional 30% chance of inflicting a critical hit if the target is under increased defense debuff. Okay, so does he do a decreased defense debuff on his A2? He does not. Okay, Soften Them Up is his A2 on a 7-turn cooldown. They can book down to 4 turns. That's interesting. Places a counterattack and a 25% increase attack buff on this champion for 2 turns, and grants an extra turn. So I guess that's why the counterattack for 2 turns, because you get an extra turn to go in there. Okay, and passive. Okay, here we go. Here's the decreased defense. So he has a passive, Furious Defense, has a 20% chance of placing a 30%, so the low version, decreased defense debuff for 2 turns when attacking targets with higher defense than this champion. And again, it's hard to tell, when that is, but okay. Has a 20% chance of decreasing the damage taken by 20% when attacked by enemies with higher attack than this champion. Okay, so you don't have a whole lot of control over this passive, but I guess it's a passive, so it doesn't really matter that much. But you can increase the chance 30, 35, 40, 45, 50, up to 60% on a passive. So that's, 20, so 40%, 50%. Still, that's not bad for a passive. I'm not sure how much use this guy is going to get, but he has extra 30% crit if his passive hits. So, I mean, the skills do synergize, and the counterattack's nice. I don't know if he's going to get a lot of workout, but I think he'd be fun to test, right? Let's move on. Lastly, the Hatchet Slinger. I like his pseudo mohawk. It doesn't go all the way back. He does as much as he could grow. Scalp tattoo is pretty cool. He's alright. I love anyone who dual wields hatchets. Makes me pleased. Okay, let's see what he's got going here for skills. Axe Frenzy is his A1. Attacks one enemy 2 times. Has an 80% chance of ignoring 15% of the target's defense if this champion has 50% hit points or higher. Okay, these some of these skills are getting super wordy. Okay, has a 10% chance of placing a stun debuff for 1 turn if this champion has less than 50% hit points. Okay, so he goes all out if he has his hit points, and he stuns to get a little bit of a to get a little bit of a reprieve from an attack if he has less than 50% hit points. So that makes sense. And I like the ignoring defense. I always love ignoring defense. 80%, 85, 90. So you can do a 100% chance of ignoring 15%. That's kind of cool. Dwarven Fortitude is his A2. Places an unkillable on the champion for 2 turns. 7 turn cooldown. But you can get it down. You have to book it down to 4 turns. And he has a passive. Hatchets for All. Okay, that's I like that name. Has a 5% chance of counterattacking when hit. Has a 25% chance of counterattacking when hit with a critical hit. Okay, so it seems like Plarium knows that people like counterattacks. And so they've added a couple champions with counterattacking abilities. Not group counterattack, but still, that's nice. Has a 5% chance of counterattacking when hit. 25% chance of counterattacking when hit with a crit. Okay, so maybe I want to put him in a team that has that new decreased crit buff, but not bad. He's fine. He's fine. All right, so that's it. One thing that is readily apparent here is that they added in all these new buffs, but none of these new champions have the new buffs or the new debuffs or anything. So I was hoping that they would synergize, because if you look at the bears, the new bears, they are kind of dependent on each other to function. Not this guy so much as this guy. He depends on a skill from this decreased crit rate. He doesn't have a decreased crit rate, but this guy does. So they're dependent on one another. It would have been nice to have champions with some of the new debuffs so that we can kind of mix the champions around a bit, so they're not you don't have your teams kind of dictated to you by because there's so few champions that have the complementary skill. But overall, this champion drop is good. Nothing's game breaking. There's some that are really good, some that serve a niche role really well. Free-to-play clan boss has got a tremendous boost. Overall, I am pretty pleased. With this release. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Throw me a like if you found this helpful. Let me know what else you want me to look at. If there's a champion you want me to review, because I do have some in the works, and I have a video that I'm working on for tomorrow for Valentine's Day. Please like. That would help me a lot. And definitely subscribe if you want to see more of this. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys. You guys are awesome. And I will talk to you after my lunch break. All right, take care, guys. Have fun.